3, 2, 1.
What's going on, folks, and welcome back into the Sports Tree Studio for Trees 3. A full proper show tonight on this fine Friday evening for you guys to preview the President's Cup for the weekend, UFC Paris, and of course the Sunday slate of NFL Week 4 games. If you head over to sportstree.ca right now, you can check out our pick packages for both the UFC in Paris and the Week 4 Sunday slate. And let's rock and roll now with a little President's Cup update. For the third time in the history of the competition, the Americans swept the opening round 4-ball match. Just went out and absolutely pasted the Internationals. That's bad. It was all over, unless the Internationals found a way to answer. And they pulled off the counter sweep on Friday in the foursome matchups. That's absurd. They went 7-6, 6-5, 5-4, 1-up, and 1-up, making it 5-5. What a statement made by the Internationals here on home soil in Montreal, Canada. I'm Canadian. I'm rooting for the Internationals. We put $250 on them to win this as massive underdogs. And if you bet them on Friday morning before they teed off, they were 16-1 underdogs. So if anyone was playing with smart money out there, having some fun, just betting on the Internationals, good luck. You're looking good. And now we move into the Saturday morning sessions with morning 4-ball. You have Adam Scott and Taylor Pendrith going up against Scotty Scheffler and Colin Morikawa in the first match. Corey Connors and Mackenzie Hughes, they won it for Team Canada earlier on Friday. They're going up against Tony Finau and Xander Schauffele. And then Siwoo Kim and Tom Kim are reunited. They were awesome together at the last President's Cup. They're taking on Keegan Bradley and Wyndham Clark. Hideki Matsuyama, he was white hot, actually. Not red hot. He was white hot on Friday. He's teaming up with Sungjae Im, and they're taking on Patrick Cantley and Sam Burns to open up the morning. All those tee times are happening between 7 a.m. and 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So wake up early and enjoy some golf if you're out there on Saturday. Another thing to note, we have quote-unquote boots on the ground at this event. One of my buddies grabbing some video here, grabbing some B-roll of Xander Schauffele staying after the session had ended to work on his game. I don't know whether that bodes good or bad for the Internationals. I mean, either you're in his head and he needs to sharpen things, or he's pissed and he's going to come out firing tomorrow. It's going to be an awesome weekend of golf. It's tied 5-5, and it's the first team to get the 15.5 points that will lift the 2024 President's Cup. Coming in at number 2 this week, folks, is the UFC from Paris. UFC Fight Night Paris. We are going to run through every single one of the fights on this card. Now, bear with us. There are a lot of fights on this card. If you want the full breakdowns, best bets, parlays, all that good stuff, make sure you head over to sportstree.ca and get your hands on that pick package for UFC Paris. But we're going to run through and break down every one of these fights and just maybe give you something to look for in each one. Kicking off the night, folks, it's Balaji Oki taking on Chris Duncan. This one's pretty straightforward, folks. You have to fade Chris Duncan whenever you can. Although this is a tough spot because we don't know too much about Oki, Chris Duncan just has yet to prove he's a UFC quality fighter. In 5 UFC appearances, he's been finished twice, and if he can't control the grappling exchanges, he loses the fight, straight up. I'm not putting my money behind Balaji Oki at a -200 favorite. I just haven't seen enough, but this kid looks like the real deal, and I expect him to go out and win that fight. Next up, folks, it's Jacqueline Cavalcanti versus Nora Cornoli, and I like Cavalcanti in this fight. She lands over 7 significant strikes per minute while absorbing just 3. She's quick, she's slick, and despite coming in on short notice, I think she should go out there and get the job done. -220, obviously you're playing some juice there, but I do think that she goes out and wins this fight. Victor Altamirano is taking on Daniel Barres, and I like Altamirano in this spot. Look, Daniel Barres is not a good fighter. He's 35 years old, he's yet to win under the UFC banner, and he has a negative striking differential. Well, Victor Altamirano isn't a world beater. He's 3-3 in the UFC. He's going to be carrying a reach advantage into this fight, and if he can keep this at range and control the distance, I think he should be able to win this fight. However, to put my money behind him as a favorite when he's lost consecutive fights, I like Altamirano to win this fight, but I won't be putting any money behind him. Next up, folks, it's Ellen Perez versus Daria, that last name, Zelenakova. I don't want to be here all night. She's new to the UFC. Once I hear the enunciation and I know where to listen for it, I'll get it right next time. But that thing is a fucking nightmare. Oh my God. Take Alan Perez in this fight. If she can get this to the ground, she should be able to control it, win it 30-27. However, if she can't get it to the ground and she can't implement that game plan, she's in big trouble. Taylor Lapalisse versus Vince Morales. Now, Lapalisse should win this fight. However, Vince Morales has the opportunity for the upset. And at dash 400, I'm not adding Taylor Lapalisse to a parlay. So be very cognizant of this one. Vince Morales, he's a dog. So be careful in this spot. He's lost back-to-back fights in 6 out of his 9 UFC career appearances. So this should be a layup for Lapalisse. But just watch out for Vincent Morales in that one. Ludovic Klein versus Roosevelt Roberts. Now, this is a legitimate layup. Bet Ludovic Klein. He's going to win this fight. Roosevelt Roberts hasn't won a fight since 2020. Yeah. In contrast, Klein hasn't lost a fight since 2021. So we have a guy that hasn't won since 2020, a guy that hasn't lost since 2021. Why are we making this fight? Take Ludovic Klein. You can take him to juice up a parlay if you want a little safe play parlay to get some even money back. But yeah, Ludovic Klein should win that fight. And Roberts is coming in on short notice. And he's Roosevelt Roberts. Next on the docket, folks, it's Umar Sy versus Dawoong Jung. And you got to go with the undefeated Umar Sy in this one. The UFC is throwing him a bone here. Jung has lost 3 consecutive fights, and he's been finished in 2 out of those 3 fights. Furthermore, Sy's an excellent grappler. He's going to take this down and just simply pulverize him. Take Sy for the win. Ion Cutelaba versus Ivan Erslan. Now, I like Ivan Erslan in this fight because you have to fade Cutelaba. He is a wild man. He is a ton of fun to watch. I love backing Cutelaba, but at 17-10 and 1 no contest, I got to go with the younger, rangier, more efficient martial artist. If Erslan doesn't get clipped, he'll win this fight. I like Erslan at dash 120. It's Faraziem versus Matt the Steamroller Frivola. Now, Frivola is going to have opportunities in this fight. If he can pin Ziem to the mat, he's going to be able to have opportunities to win this. What I am worried about is his stand-up game and just getting picked apart. He does have a weak chin. However, Ziem has never knocked anyone out in the UFC, and his last knockout actually came back in 2017. Frivola has heavy hands. He has the wrestling. If he gets inside, he should be able to cause problems. It's just, can Ziem keep this on the outside? I think this line is lined very fairly, which makes me want to lean towards the underdog in Frivola, but head over to sportstree.ca for a full breakdown with our betting models analysis on that one. Morgan Charrier versus Gabriel Miranda. Now, Charrier, the reason he's on this card is because he's French. He's 19-10-1, and he's not that great. He's just more well-rounded and a better fighter than Gabriel Miranda. He should win this fight, but at dash 700, I'm not laying that money because I'm not stupid. However, he'll win the fight. Kevin Jousset versus Brian Battle. Give me Brian Battle. Kevin Jousset, fighting on home soil. He's a well-rounded mixed martial artist, but I like Brian Battle because he is a gamer. No matter where the fight goes, this guy's always in the fight. He lives up to his surname and always brings the battle into each fight. I think he goes in, finds his range, weathers the early storm, and turns on the Jets later in this fight and possibly even finishes Kevin Jousset. William Gomi versus Joe Anderson Brito. Give me Joe Anderson Brito. William Gomi is good. He looks very slick out there. However, who has he fought? Joe Anderson Brito has fought the best and the best in the UFC at the 145 division, and I like him to go out and win this fight. While he may not necessarily be the faster of the two fighters, I think he'll be able to impose his will with his size and with his experience. Give me Joe Anderson Brito to win that one. Nasruddin Imavov versus Brandon Allen. Imavov is just a clean, concise technical striker who has grappling chops. I don't think Brendan Allen is going to be able to drag Imavov anywhere in this fight that will make him uncomfortable. Sure, he'll have an edge in the grappling department, and that should be Allen's path to victory. I just don't see how he gets that victory without Imavov getting back to his feet and piecing up Allen. Allen's very rudimentary on the feet, or at least will look rudimentary against a guy as crisp as Imavov. Take Imavov for the win. I love that value. Hento Moicano versus Benoit Saint Denis, and this one's going to be a slugfest. I've seen Benoit Saint Denis get knocked out by Dustin Poirier after gassing out, and Moicano is an absolute dog who will try to drag this fight into the deeper waters if he survives. That's the problem. He always gets hurt, and I think Saint Denis will be able to hurt him early. This fight is not going to distance. That's your safe bet. That's your parlay builder, and if you want to pick for the main event, head over to sportstree.ca and buy that pick package today. Right now. Let's do it. Let's go. And coming at number 1 this week, folks, it is NFL Sunday. We've been on fire this NFL season, up over 8 units in profit. Let's keep rocking and rolling with this Sunday slate, starting with the Minnesota Vikings at the Green Bay Packers. Maybe be leading towards the under in this one. The Packers had 8 sacks last week, and Sam Darnold was sacked 4 times against Houston. Look, if you can't protect the quarterback, you can't put up points, and that's going to be a problem, especially because the Vikings had 5 sacks of their own, and if Jordan Love is returning this week, the thing that you have to do is get the ball out of his hand quickly and make sure he doesn't get hit. It's either going to be quick routes or it's going to be running the football. So look for the ball to be run on both sides to mitigate the pass rush in this one, to pacify that pass rush and the clock to tick. This could be a smash mouth divisional football game. The Denver Broncos versus the New York Jets. The Broncos defense was dominant last week in Tampa Bay. They held Baker Mayfield to 163 yards, picked him off, and sacked him 7 times. The Jets also had 7 sacks last week, so this could be a defensive battle. Which offense do you trust more? I like Aaron Rodgers and the Jets a whole lot more than I trust Bo Nix at this point in his career. Carolina Panthers and Cincinnati Bengals. How are the Bengals still losing? I'll tell you how. Their defense stinks. They gave up 38 points last week, and now they're taking on a Panthers team that erupted for 36 points. This Bengals defense cannot stop any offense that I've seen yet this season take the over in this game, whatever it may be. Fun fact, the last time these two teams met, Andy Dalton was playing for the Bengals, and it was a 37-37 tie. History is in our favor. Houston Texans taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, the Jaguars go on the road on a short week, and they have to play a good Texans team who are going to be pissed off after a loss. Trevor Lawrence has now lost 8 consecutive starts, which is the longest streak in the NFL currently, and the defense stinks. The O-line can't protect Lawrence. And did I mention the Texans are 6-0 after their last 6 losses? The Los Angeles Rams ride into Chicago to take on the Bears, and I don't understand why the Bears are favored, especially by a field goal in this one. The Rams, they look good. They snatched a victory from the jaws of defeat last week against the 49ers, and the Bears, their offense just hasn't gotten going. Well, the Rams' defense is suspect, and that's why we can't trust them. Is the Bears' offense going to be able to take advantage of them? Yes, Caleb Williams threw for over 350 yards last week, but that was against a very weak Indianapolis Colts defense. I just can't buy into the Bears right now. I'm a Bears fan. I'm wearing a Bears hat right now. I can't buy into the Bears to cover 3 points at home, even though it's at home, against Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay come the 4th quarter. The Saints head to Atlanta to take on the Falcons for the first time this season, and if they're smart, they're going to run the football. The Falcons have averaged 150 yards against per game on the ground, and Alvin Kamara has looked resurrected this season. Also, Derek Carr stinks, or he did stink last week. He was held to less than 150 yards against the Eagles defense, and that's the same Eagles defense that Kirk Cousins shredded and beat. If Kirk Cousins is getting back into form with the playmakers around him in Atlanta, look out for the Dirty Birds come Sunday. The Titans and Dolphins. One team has injuries, one team sucks. Let's take the under. Raiders and Browns. Now, this could be interesting, seeing how that Andy Dalton just shredded the Raiders last week. Yes, Andy the Red Rifle Dalton is back, and he's shredding teams for over 350 yards, which is obscene. That shouldn't be happening. On the other side, the Browns might be in even worse shape because their quarterback's name is Deshaun Watson. Watson is yet to throw for 200 yards this season. That's abysmally bad, especially knowing how much money he's making. He's been sacked a league high 16 times this season, so no wonder he lost to Daniel Jones last week. Look, this game, don't watch it. The Philadelphia Eagles head to Tampa Bay to take on the Buccaneers, and the Eagles have more injuries at wide receiver than there are chins in the Chinese phone book. All I know about this game is that the Eagles are pure entertainment in the 4th quarter, and if you bet on them, odds are they're going to fuck you. Patriots at 49ers. Despite injuries, the 49ers have to win this game. Brock Purdy looked great last week. They coughed up that win. They should have won that game against the Rams. And now they're getting a struggling New England Patriots team at home. I think they'll be able to cover the 11.5 points. We'll run it through the model and whatnot and post all that on the betting picks over on sportstree.ca. However, the Niners, they have to win this game. Otherwise, their season is virtually over. The Washington Commanders head out to the desert to take on the Arizona Cardinals, and Cliff Kingsbury has this Washington Commanders team rolling. Well, their offense specifically, they just put up 38 points, and they've scored points on every drive excluding kneel downs in each of their last 2 games. Now Cliff Kingsbury gets to head back to Arizona to take on his old quarterback and his old team. I expect points to be firing in this one. High-scoring game between the Commanders and Cardinals. The Kansas City Chiefs are taking on the Los Angeles Chargers, and the Chargers gave up 240 yards through the air last week to Justin Fields. That doesn't bode well when you have to take on Patrick Mahomes. Now, normally, I'd say, well, Derwin James is out there. At least he can mitigate that. Nope, he's suspended. Justin Herbert's hurt. He had to leave in the fourth quarter of last week's game in Pittsburgh with that high ankle sprain, which is still nagging him. If he can't go or if he's limited, how are the Chargers going to score? If they become one-dimensional, we saw what Pittsburgh was able to do and bottle up their offense in the second half last week. J.K. Dobbins only had 44 rushing yards. This could get ugly fast. For the Chargers to beat the Chiefs, they need their best players playing, and they need them to play as their best players. They don't have Derwin James. There's question marks surrounding Justin Herbert. I'm staying away from this one, or I'm laying the points with the Chiefs. Buffalo Bills versus the Baltimore Ravens, and we're going to be looking for points in this one. This is going to be an awesome Sunday night football game. As a matter of fact, this whole Sunday slate is incredible. Again, if you want all of our best bets, all of our picks, parlays, props, head over to sportstree.ca and check out our pick package for UFC Paris and for the Sunday NFL slate for Week 4. Folks, I'm Connor Roundtree. Cheers. You've made it to the weekend.
3, 2, 1.